And so, it begins. Dark were the skies, and chill was the wind, as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did crowd for a savior, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shimmering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strode across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one Murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Please. It begins now. Yes, indeed, folks. Welcome to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com with myself, Total Biscuit. Oh, yes, indeed. What a week it's been! Oh, I barely even had time to get a show put together. In fact, come to think of it, I didn't get a show put together. I got some of it done. I'm sure I'll make some stuff up as I go along. That's mostly what happens on the show anyway, so it's not what I would describe as unusual in any real respect. So what we're coming on the show to you today? Well, many things. Specifically, we've got an interview with Lasana from Restokin.com. So, my understanding of talents outside of the mage talents, it's bad, okay? Let's just admit it. Let's be completely honest about everything here. It is bad. I have no idea what I am doing when it comes to talents outside of the mage. So, I decided that I would get in other people that actually knew what they were talking about, and that's the plan over the next, well, however many weeks it takes to do it. So, I got the Restokin person, and the Restokin person, all by the name of Lasana, came on the show, and obviously this was pre-recorded yesterday, which is kind of unfortunate, because straight after we recorded the interview, they changed everything. I wonder, yes. Suspicious, one might think, but whatever the case. So just take the interview with a pinch of salt, but most of the principles still apply. And everything that I say is, of course, completely wrong. So you can ignore that by default. Yeah, Lasana a little bit later on in the show, 20-minute interview with her. And next week, I'm going to be having somebody to talk about every class, because he claims that he is, quote, te best at every possible class. Now, I did some research, and it turns out that he may in fact be te best at every class. So we're going to get him on to talk about every single class, maybe even druids as well. And he goes by the name of Terpster. He's a little-known guy. He just started off in the WoW community. He's got a level 5 gnome warrior, and he's looking really promising. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he has to say next week on the show. Right. Okay. Aside from that, Cataclysm Q&A, I'll be talking about really what's been going on in the beta for the past week. It's been taking so very long to get anything done that I just haven't had the time to pay attention to what's going on. So I play the beta, I record the beta, I do the beta, and that's really about it. I will happily talk to you about the beta, because that's really all I can do, I suppose. There's been a few changes over the course of the week, all documented via MMO Champion, Wowhead, and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, we've got StarCraft 2 coming out in a few days. And there is also a fairly nice article about... Well, it's not so much an article, but a series of blue posts about guild perks, which I want to talk about and sort of keep you up to date on. And guild perks comes up quite a bit on this show, and some people will say, oh, well, it's just repeat content. The thing is that a lot of the Cataclysm beta stuff is going to be repeat content, no matter which site you go to. I mean, MMO Champion posts repeat content, WoW.com posts repeat content, all the podcasts mention the same things over and over again, because at the end of the day, you can't actually test everything. I mean, think about it. We can't test raiding, we can't test any more than 3 dungeons, most of us can't test the 3rd dungeon. To get into Stone Core, you need to be level 83. I'll be damned if I have time to get to level 83, I'll tell you. So, at some point, I will hopefully get the chance to get to level 83. But right now, most of us aren't there yet. It takes a long time. I mean, leveling-wise, what you're looking at is you are looking at 80 to 83 is about 70 to 77. Yeah? That's the equivalent. And now, something very recently just happened. They've changed the Hyjal zone to a level 80 zone and, doubled the HP of the mobs. Actually, maybe even more than that. It went out very recently regarding Mount Hyjal. There we go, yes, they've doubled it. So, mobs in Cataclysm at level 80 in Hyjal used to be around 1,600... Yeah, that is... No, it's not 1,600. 16,000 health. Now it's 31,000 health. So, it's going to now take even longer to level through that particular part of the actual thing. It's also happening in Vashir as well. So, yeah. Mobs are a lot tougher now. As in twice the toughness, so it's going to take longer to kill them. But yeah, I would agree with some people say 16k was way too easy. I mean, I remember when I went... You'll remember the Hyjal video, when I went and did the first quest in there, just before I did the flying tour. And I destroyed them. I mean, really fast at level 80 in default gear. And if not for that ridiculous silence mechanic they had going on there, honestly, there wouldn't have been any challenge at all. So, I suppose it's an entirely reasonable change. But yeah, so, stuff later on in the show. You know how it goes. We'll do the Lasana interview after this.
Mail time! That sounds like it's mail time! Here's the mail.
It never fails.
It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes,
I want to wail.
Yes, indeed, folks. It is time for the mail. It is where I read the mail. It's where I don't read my YouTube comments section, because it would take a very, very long time. Yeah, in regards to the YouTube thing, I pretty much told you what I want to tell you on that in that latest article that I posted on cynicalbrit.com and the announcement on my video channel. All I can basically say is, this in the game station is now full-time, so that's what I'm going to be dedicating myself to. Podcasts are still going to be going on as always. I've already upgraded a piece of gear, which if you've got decent headphones, you might be able to hear the difference. I tried to bury, say, the background noise and hiss in the music, but let me just pause the music for a second, and you're going to hear me and maybe my computer, but you shouldn't be hearing any crazy background hiss. So, there we go. I've turned my music off for a second. If I did that with my old sound device, you'd have gotten something like so like a crowd of angry bees or vuvuzelas in the background. Now you don't. So, it's a nice piece of kit. This is the same piece of kit that the BBC uses for a lot of their mobile studio work, and obviously looking forward to getting a better microphone as well in the not-too-distant future. So, if you wonder what this partnership's getting me, better gear, that means better podcasts. It's good stuff. Okay. Let's get on with it, shall we? Sounds like a good idea. Quite a few emails in over the course of the week. Cataclysm Q&A will be at the end of the show. You can email in for that, themurloc@cynicalbrit.com. That is themurloc@cynicalbrit.com. And we'll do that. It should be good, should be entertaining, I think. I shall answer everything I possibly can. Here's the first one. This is from Kyle Mackan, and he says, "Dear host of shows,
You dare look upon the host of souls! I shall devour you all!
I am Darkweaver, a druid on Dath Ramar Oceanic, level 80 casually hardcore player. I was listening to your podcast, and you were talking about newbie hand-holding, and I think that in the base 1 to 5 zone, it should show you the 5 Ds in questing, i.e. deliver something from North Shadow, Gold Shadow, etc., etc. I also think that there should be good tutorials outlining abilities and maybe a basic rotation, but after level 5, the hand-holding should slow down a lot to let the newbies try out pretty much everything on their own. But have demos on new abilities, because learning to survive on your own should be done on your own." Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, The system that I would prefer to be in the game would basically be a selection of short video tutorials. Now, I had a bunch of ideas regarding embedding video into WoW, but I don't think you can actually do it. It would be great if you were able to have a little video that played every time you got a new ability. So you learned a new ability, it's like, would you like to see the tutorial video? Maybe just voice it over, maybe 10 seconds, 15-second thing, showing it in action in the situation that it would actually work. So say for Charge, like, Charge is an ability that allows you to close the distance quickly with a mob. Charge does, some initial damage, it has this kind of cooldown, and the best thing to do after charging is to, say, use this ability or this ability, blah, blah, blah. And it would show you the situation where Charge would work. So you're standing here, you're not standing too close, and you do a little video and that's it. So, tutorials have got more and more advanced in almost every game over the past X number of years. We've graduated now from reading text tutorials in manuals to reading text tutorials on screen, and then to reading all manner of things. We're seeing video tutorials, we're seeing interactive tutorials, all that kind of stuff. I mean, hell, you've got things like... Here's an example. Demon Souls. Demon Souls has a unique system whereby you see where other people die. So it's actually got a sort of pseudo-MMO element. And that's kind of like its way of teaching you the game. Bear in mind, that game is balls to the wall hard. But it teaches you how to avoid certain mistakes by seeing other people make those mistakes. There are huge numbers of different ways to teach you. StarCraft 2 is a great example. That's coming out in a few days. StarCraft 2 teaches you to play online by giving you a challenge mode. Like, say, there's one challenge whereby you have to fend off an army, but you can't click any hotkey buttons. Not at all. The hotkey clicks are totally disabled. You have to use... Say, if I want to build a unit, I have to learn what the hotkey is. I can't click on it. It stops you from clicking on it completely. So that's a great way to learn it. There's another one whereby you've got to fend off a bunch of people using EMPs and stuff like that. So, yeah. Look at all of the different ways. Even Blizzard has realized there are loads of different ways to teach you how to play the game. It's good stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing what WoW can come up with. I mean, right now we've got the question mark system, which it's okay. It's alright. It's not amazing. But it's getting better. That's the main point. That's the most important thing. It is getting better. It is improving. It's better than it used to be. Now, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Two starting areas that do a very good job of teaching you how to play the game are Troll and now also Tauren. You'll see the Tauren video on my channel. That is a really good starting zone. It's not fancy, but it actually gets some really good story immersion going on, and it teaches you how to play the game. It gives you a wide variety of different abilities to choose from. So, I like the Tauren starting zone. I think it's great. I'm looking forward to playing and filming more of it. But yeah, I would agree. You don't have to handhold them through the entire game. Maybe have certain level ranges whereby it's like, okay, let's have a bit of a refresher course. So, what have you learned so far? Well, here's some more advanced techniques. Maybe don't start worrying about rotation at level 5, Start worrying about rotation at around level 15 to 20, which is when you go into your first dungeon. By that point, you've got enough abilities to be concerned about your rotation. And if you go in at the right level, then it's actually pretty challenging. So think about it. Is there anything wrong with teaching people that way? I don't think so. I think that is something that's very important. I think it's Blizzard that has to grasp that as much as possible if they want to fulfill their goal with Cataclysm, and that is keeping the players past the trial period. Because right now they are hemorrhaging players across the board who quit. 70%? Was that the number? 70% of people. They actually quit before the end of the trial. Think about how crazy that is. Now, some people, of course, don't like it, but there are other people that are just not engaged by it. Blizzard has got to try harder in that regard. And there's nothing wrong with having more players. Okay. Let's see what else we've got. That'll do. Dear Tree of the Damned. Yeah, that's mentioned, by the way. I'm actually in a new legendary frog animation. The Legend of the Black Book. I will provide you a link. Yeah, I should really post that on the front page. I'll pop a link up at some point. If you listen to the podcast, it should already be up. But if you listen to the live show, then I'll pop it up after the show so you can watch it. I've got a little bit part in that, and, that Legendary Frog did some commissioned artwork for me, so I did a little bit of voice acting for him, and, it all works out. So, With the impending release of StarCraft 2, it has been known that the Collector's Edition will contain a WoW vanity pen. Clearly this is a marketing gimmick, but something that bothers me about it. Do you think it's right for a company to use their most popular game to pressure people into spending the extra $50? Or do you think Lil Thor is the perfect marketing scheme that should be encouraged? Also, do you think we will see this more in the future? Okay. First things first, I don't agree with either of those statements. I don't think it's a perfect marketing scheme, but I also don't think that it is morally and ethically unjustifiable to do it. It's not pressuring, it's benefits. I think this is the kind of thing that you have to have a look at and say, well, is it okay to give benefits to someone that supports multiple products from the same company? Because I'm thinking yes. I mean, what's so wrong with that? Anybody? No? Didn't think so. It is a good marketing scheme. It's not a great marketing scheme, but it's good. What you've got here is a demographic that tends to overlap. Let me ask you a question. I wonder if Tiny Chat has a polling system. I don't think it does. If it did, it would be really great. I need to set up a poll. I want to do this over the course of the show because I actually want to know. Inquiring minds wish to know. I'm going to put a link in the comment and I'll let you know after the interview with Lasana exactly what's going on here. I want to know how many of you that play WoW also play another Blizzard game or have played another Blizzard game to a reasonable degree. So, if you're a WoW player, have you played StarCraft, StarCraft 2, Diablo, Diablo 2, Warcraft 3, Warcraft 2, Rock and Roll Racing, The Death and Return of Superman? I certainly hope not, because it was awful. You know, any Blizzard game. Because I'm willing to bet the vast majority of you have, and you probably enjoyed it. Which means that it makes perfect sense to give the Little Thor pet to people that buy the Collector's Edition, because we're talking about rewarding people that spend money on Blizzard products. That seems reasonable to me. That's not some evil corporate scheme. That's not pressure. And we'll be talking about pressure when we come back to an interesting post about guilds and the guild perk system, which has just recently been implemented. I'll also run through the perks that are currently in the beta for you. But no, that's not pressure. That's an incentive. My name's Total Biscuit. I'm going to play you a track by my brother's band. They're sort of industrial goth sludge. They're a little bit EBM as well. They're called 1999. This is a cover of a new model army track, and it goes by the name of Vagabonds. I'll give you the link to their page in the chat room, as well as in the show notes on cynicalbrit.com for the podcast listeners. They're really great. Obviously, I'm supporting my little brother on this one. I think he's done a fantastic job with this group, and it would be awesome if you guys could check them out and have a listen to their material. So here's their cover song, and I'll be right back after this with the interview with Lasana. Enjoy.
The ships, the loaded cargo in the night. The names are calling from faraway places. The years go past, the miles go by. Still the shadow romance will never
Sounds of 1999. My brother's band there with the cover of New Model Army's Vagabonds. Go check them out over at Reverb Nation. I'll post the link in the chat room and, of course, on my website. Are you ready to listen to the Lasana interview? I must apologize before I do this. Well, two reasons. First, some of the stuff said in this interview is, in fact, a little bit out of date because this was recorded last night just before a beta patch. And secondly, the servers for live broadcast are now at full capacity. You're maxing out a gigabit and a half pipe right now, which is fairly ridiculous. So if you've got friends that can't listen to the show, my apologies. You'll just have to listen to the podcast after the fact. And now, time for Lasana from restokin.com.